I'm going to be addressing the issue the venue, challenges that venues have with production. I have two panelists. The first one is Ntate Shakir Jadoo, who is currently the manager of Orbit. Can you please come to the fore? And then I have also Anthony Mandishona, who is the owner of Tavern Restaurant in Maponya Mall. With venues, we are dealing with what I think is the core of one of the core of our businesses, where most of the activities happen. It is like it's a factory where almost all artists are looking for. It's a place of employment, it's where they want to gig, it's spaces that we must have. And unfortunately, we learned from our sister that it is a challenge across the continent. In Johannesburg alone, I think we have 4, 5, 6 venues that are active and are employing our artists. What are some of the challenges that you are facing with regards to technical when you're doing your live performances, when you're hosting live gigs?
I've got a restaurant in Maponya Mall called The Tavern. It's an African food restaurant. What I did is that I incorporated a lot of arts within the restaurant, which what I felt kind of made African restaurant complete. So we've got comedy on Tuesdays, we've got live band on Thursdays, we've got a student night on Wednesdays, and we still incorporate a lot of spoken word, poetry, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, so I think that's kind of an overview of how we are in the space involving artists. Yeah.
But when it comes to production, what challenges are you facing as a venue?
Okay. Well, I guess it's a platform. I have taken what we do, for instance, our comedy, to places like Soweto TV and so forth. So I guess it's about being able to put things at the level that they require, I think is one challenge. Mm-hmm. I think also probably the networks, getting involved with organizations like Sarah, Roadies, and so forth, and collaborating so that we can actually put the content we've got and do something with it, be it on TV, be it on the internet, be it on YouTube, whatever it is. Yeah, and I think also just getting all those nitty-gritties right, your sound, your lighting, your all of that stuff as well. To go with what the DJ said yesterday, mm-hmm. They were talking about the CDJ 350s and 2000s. I don't know if anyone recalls that was here yesterday. Euphonic was saying that he wants to perform at a level where he needs CDJ 2000s, which cost 50 grand each, as he put it, and we always have CDJ 350s, which cost about 10 grand each. So there's also a resource challenge in getting the right equipment.
Great. I manage the Orbit. We do about 6 shows a week. So literally we have one long jazz festival for about 11 months. So we face a lot of issues. We have a lot of technical issues that we have to deal with, especially consider that the size of the band. So we're fully equipped if we have to do a show for 5 or 6 piece band. But if anything larger than that, we then got to outsource and hire the equipment. Mm-hmm. And the challenges I face is a couple of months ago in the middle of a show, one of the pieces of equipment that we hired was not working. We just suddenly got to try and work out something where we then had to make a few calls, got a few things delivered, and managed to get the show going on. In addition to that, there's obviously, are we talking only technical challenges here, or we?
Well, we are talking technical, but I was saying earlier on, I'm already told I have about a few minutes, that the challenge of venues is much broader. And as a space is that space that we need to keep alive, maybe we need to open it up a little bit. And I would ask you, how do you today get support from government with regards to some of the challenges on equipment, on production? Is there any support that you are getting from them?
Is that a joke, man?
No, it's not, my brother.
Okay, to be honest, we get no support from government, no support from government. If you consider that the Orbit is probably the ultimate art space in Johannesburg, if not in the country, very little, actually no support. We get a bit of funding from some of the liquor companies, some of the, a few of the banks, like your Standard banks, have given us a bit of support. And yeah, that's about it. No other support yet.
Do you get?
I'll agree. Also, I think there's a kind of mismatch because with government, when you apply, they more want your NGOs and your Section 21s, your non-profit companies. I think those are the ones like applying for arts and culture funding and things like that. So with us who are entrepreneurs, yes, we are providing a platform for artists. For instance, a lot of comedians that started off at my restaurant have won the Savannah awards at Monte Casino and done a lot of great things. And again, we also get a lot of our funding from our liquor companies and partners and stuff like that. But yeah, government
is not contributing. Yeah. I have seen a few artists there and producers, and I'm going to bring them in, and anyone who feels works in the space can come in and we comment quickly. As musicians, I see in LETPC there, you work with a lot of musicians, and I know your organization has plus or minus 3,000 members. What is your challenge, or what challenges do they bring to you with regards to venues and technical and all that? Mike? No, not really. Okay, that's okay.
Thank you, Lesiba. I think, you asked a pertinent question about support, but I think we are unfortunately working in silos. I mean, the kind of challenges musicians have, I mean, it's a pity so much music is being produced on a daily basis, from home studios to formal studios, but the platforms are lacking. I mean, if you have a tourist coming from Europe and they want to visit a live venue like, the revamped Doke House, it is very rare for them to find a lot of live music because of it's become so expensive for the owners of venues to run those venues with musicians because of then otherwise musicians have to sell themselves short and use the platforms for promotion. And for how long can a musician promote themselves? So it's got to be a win-win situation. So I think corporate South Africa needs to come to the party. Governments needs to come to the party to subsidize the venues to make it easier for them to hire musicians. I always say, especially in government circles, it's okay to pay for draping, it's okay to pay for catering, it's okay to pay for anything else there is to be paid for. But when it comes to a musician, then the poor artist has to be asked, can you promote yourself? So it takes us back to slavery, where artists are exploited at the expense of promoting themselves. So I think we need a partnership that can work, and that partnership can only work if all stakeholders come together to make it happen.
Well, there should be a place for anyone that wants to do live event. But then again, some places are small, some places are big. A lot of places are just about something. The great thing is we, as the industry, have to find the right place for the artist to be there. And sometimes an artist is really willing to perform and to be promoted and just to drink beer or something else and be happy. But most of them, we must realize, are in the industry to earn some money. And then we help them to step from this venue to the other venue and the next venue and the next venue. And if together we can work that out, then we are building the industry, we're building the artist, we are creating our own industry which is growing. And we got a lot of gear, which can be hired or can be on the site itself. So basically, it's thinking about how do we get that artist growing. Start with the artist himself, him or herself. They have to be okay. And if they are okay, and we got live, it's happening, next time I'm coming back. And next time I'm paying money. I feel in your country, a lot of people feel it's difficult to pay money to go to a venue and to see the artist. Hey, those things are going to happen, if not happening already. We pay money to go to the artists, to see the artists, because we like them and they perform. And there have to be some money somewhere. So it's good if you ask money from the government. We do it by ourselves. We ask the people that come to the venue to pay. And maybe it's through a meal and a musician, or maybe through this or that. But in the end, if we build a good industry, we have to start, let the audience do some of the payment, and then all the artists will grow, the venues will grow, the technicians will just have work, and things can happen.
Okay.
So let's talk about the UK, because I live there, so I know something about it. Arenas, they're okay. A lot of the arenas are owned by and managed by companies that are owned by promoters. So they have that kind of like control together. Live Nation owned venues, Live Nation owned artists. When you move into the sort of theatre size, 4,000, 5,000 capacity down to 2,000 capacity, the Academy Music Group is a group that's owned by a bunch of promoters and run by a bunch of promoters, so they can kind of run their own venues at a profit. So they're kind of okay and they're doing all right. But the most important venues in any country are the grassroots venues, the small venues where artists and technicians learn their craft. That's the place they make their mistakes, Willem, because we all make mistakes. The best place to make it is at the grassroots venue, and they're the venues that are under threat from so many sides. In the UK, they've just changed the planning laws, but venues closed because they were in an area of maybe industrial or office buildings. So when they were making noise at night, the offices were closed. No problem. But then developers come in, turn the offices into flats, apartments, and then the noise complaints happen. And it's on the venue to renew their license, and the local authority say, well, you've got to deal with the noise now. And it's too expensive to deal with. So because somebody else made a change, the venue has to make the changes to their noise. But they've just changed the law. It's called the agent of change principle. So now the developer has to soundproof the flats rather than the venue having to soundproof the venue. And that's change. That's a change that's been made by an organisation called the Music Venues Trust. And they're formed to fight for grassroots venues. That is their one purpose, is to fight for grassroots. They've achieved that change in the law. The Performing Rights Society, the people who take the money for the artists when you perform the songs, they had a minimum charge of £32 for a venue. You can pay 3% of your ticket value, but if there's a minimum of £32. So for a small venue with 50 people going in, spending five quid each, that's £250. That's more than 10%. So if you get more people and you pay 3%, if you don't get enough people to make money, you pay 15, 20%. They've just abolished the minimum charge. That was the Music Venues Trust that got them to abolish that minimum charge. The Music Venues Trust also applied to the Arts Council for funding for some key venues. It was refused. They got no money because the Arts Council don't want to give money to popular music because they see popular music as self-sustaining. You make loads of money. Look at U2. Well, they see the big bands. They don't see the grassroots. So all that grassroots venues have in the UK as a thank you for all the bands that have gone through there is a poster on the wall saying Oasis played here, Blur played here, Coldplay played here. And those guys disappear into the big time, and none of that money there trickles down to the grassroots venues where they started. So that's the next thing for the Music Venues Trust, is to try and create a virtuous circle where some of that big money comes back down to fund it. And there are artists that are now saying they realise the problems and they're now becoming patrons of the Music Venues Trust. So in the UK, there is one organisation that has fought for, it's been in existence for 3 years, but it has achieved amazing things. 2 people, Mark and Beverly, they started it and they've done amazing things. So amazing things can happen, but they don't have to happen with government funding, because always remember, with outside funding, there are strings, and they'll pull you in directions you don't want to go. So if you can work it out yourself within your own industry, it's the way to do it.
There are 2 issues that he raised that I, as a venue owner, deal with daily. The noise. How do you handle? Well, you're in Maponya Mall. I'm sure you don't have that challenge. do you have noise challenges with police and and all people come in to tell you to turn it down around 11, 12.
Fortunately, the orbit is in Braamfontein, which is a lot of students. We haven't had any noise complaints. We're fully compliant. Because Braamfontein is in the city center, it's not considered to be residential, you're allowed to have a nightclub for as long as you have an entertainment license. And we haven't had any issues as yet where we have to be compliant from a soundproofing point of view. So for the moment, the law allows us to operate as we are.
Okay. And the second issue that he raised was the issue of development, of bringing young people as technicians into your space. What are your plans? What do you do with that?
Well, I think I just wanted to add to what he was talking about in terms of grassroots. And it's a little known fact. There was a little restaurant in Sandton, Village Walk, called the Blues Room. I don't know, do people still remember that?
Yeah.
We used to watch Trevor Noah there, 2007, 2008. He performed there for 2 years. And all the big South African comedians actually who are like making it big now actually started there. So that's the grassroots, and that's what it can actually perform. It didn't start in a theater. It didn't start, on some, big TV commercial or anything. It actually started off at a restaurant. So I just wanted to add to what the gentleman from the UK was saying, that, grassroots, it's a very pivotal point, yeah.
Okay. Ntate?
I'm not sure if I'm asking a question or if it's more of a comment, but I just wanted to know if the two panelists on the floor have any association with Concerts SA. Because for me, when that program was introduced in an interview that I was privileged to have with the MD of Samro Foundation at the time, this must be about 5 years ago, when I was involved in a research program for the DAC, I thought finally this would be one way of dealing with challenges surrounding venues in terms of providing artists talent and in terms of helping them sustain their businesses. Unfortunately, our government, if these programs are not initiated by themselves, they tend to be slow in terms of getting in touch with such programs. But my comment will then be that I think for the venues of the size and nature of the panelists sitting on the stage, you probably need like 20 concert SAs, if not maybe build up the current concert SA program to the level that it can be able to cast its net wider and thereby be able to assist such venues, because otherwise we will not survive.
Yeah, I know that I had to wait for, I think, a year or so before Concert SA funds. That is their policy. And in that space of time, you are really struggling with artist performance fees and so on and so on. And with audience diminishing, coming to live venues, most venues are challenged and they end up really closing up because of, if you're going to bring in a good artist, wants 30,000 for a night or 15,000, and Concert SA is telling you that you should wait for a year before you get 8,000 or whatever they fund, they are not really helping much. I don't know about your experiences.
I'd like to make a comment on that. First, I must apologize to Concert SA for not mentioning the sponsorship. There's actually two organizations out there that assist a bit. One is Pro Helvetia, but predominantly is Concert SA, which is part of the Samro Foundation. Where they assist us a lot in is with paying for the transport costs and the hotel fees for artists that are out of Johannesburg, which is an exorbitant cost that the venue does not have to absorb. Yes, we've got a really good working relationship with Concert SA. And the fund is available for people should they need to use it.
You haven't any support. You wanted to say something else?
Yeah, Kavir from Pulse Radio. I just wanted to ask you, you mentioned earlier when you started this very limited venues in cities like Johannesburg, even more limited in the rest of the country. So my question is, from venue owners, you guys are taking the promotional risks, but also promoting creative culture in your spaces, giving platform for artists and musicians or access to promoters, and then developing an industry of live events technical. So I want to know, how do you sort of engage with new people or incumbent artists who are looking to, I know the Orbit particularly works a lot with young artists and letting them open their spaces to allow new acts to come in. So how do you as venue owners go about doing that?
With regards to new artists, firstly, there's a process we have to follow when we have to bring on new artists. I've hired my program manager as Sibonga Konkes. Fantastic. All she does is listens to music. And with new artists, if there's somebody she feels that deserves to be on stage, she then puts them on stage. But here's the thing. So irrespective of whether you're an established artist or you're a new artist, you get treated equally. We'll offer you a similar deal as we would to existing artists. So we give you the opportunity where you get a basic amount and a percentage of the door as well.
And how do you?
Well, I think in a similar way, most of my sponsorship comes from my alcohol partners. So for instance, Distal is a company that owns Savannah. So when I've got comedy, I'll talk with them and they'll give me a certain budget. And with that budget, I'll kind of separate that around. We do have an open mic type of policy. Also, so it is a kind of area where people kind of know each other and stuff like that. So yeah, we do offer a lot of platforms to whatever level somebody's on.
Okay. I'm literally being chased off the stage. This is a very interesting topic. I see hands are up, but I think we'll have to close it up here. My issue is very simple, that clubs like we own daily hosts artists and they contribute to the development of arts and culture. And somehow theaters, and I was talking to Willem about it, theaters get funding, get support, and clubs somehow, or small live venues, are not seen as spaces by government that require the same type of support. I think it would be nice if we could, in the next sessions, Sarah, invite people from the Department of Arts and Culture to be part of this panel so that they can also shed a light on how they make this distinction, because we really, as clubs, contribute a lot. And it would be nice if the venues are also supported by government in terms of salaries and all that, so that they don't have to be choosing between so many things and paying artists and paying for this and paying for that, and that is taken care of by the budget of government in order to support the arts and culture.